But first, let's look at the Albanese government's war against cars. You know, the cars that people actually want to drive, not the electric vehicles that they are being cajoled into purchasing, despite how unsuitable or how expensive they may be. Motoring groups are warning that for Australia to reach its emission reduction target set by the Brains Trust of Chris Bowen and Anthony Albanese, for that target to be met, at least half of the new utes sold in Australia would have to be electric by 2029. That just ain't going to happen without some harsh, ugly market manipulation. Even then, it seems highly unlikely. Writing about the government's emissions reduction plan in today's Telly, James Morrow notes that Bowen and co are being less than forthcoming about the impact of these radical policies. He writes, to listen to Bowen and the EV lobby, which has an absolutely vested interest in steering drivers away from petrol and diesel, the strategy will simultaneously increase the choice of electrics on offer while not making conventional Rangers, Mustangs and Land Cruisers more pricey. But come on, the most basic market economics tells us this is impossible. The whole point of the scheme is to make it less attractive for consumers to buy and for automakers to sell petrol and diesel vehicles, and cheaper for them to buy EVs. They'll do this by imposing costs on cars with big emissions and make automakers pass the charge on to consumers. Let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gator here. Kosha, these policies are flawed on so many levels, including the unsuitability of EVs for working vehicles in Australian conditions.
It is, and they keep marching forward. Every day it seems like there's a new push, a new regulation, a new incentive, and it's always cloaked under the veneer of, it's just more choice. We're not making it more difficult for you to buy what you want to buy, but we all know that that's not true, as you said, with basic market economics. And I would even zoom back, just the big picture for Australia specifically. Realistically, a population of less than 30 million people, a resource-heavy economy, let's be real. Even if you reduced emissions of the average human being by 5%, it is not going to make any difference on the planet. So this is all feel-good showboating, and the show continues.
Now, the war against cars continues in Green Heartland, the city of Yarra. That's the Anti-Australia Day far-left council. That is I think it's the country's first Greens-led and Greens-dominated council. So it's not surprising to see this. The ABC reports City of Yarra has voted to explore higher parking fees and costs for drivers of large SUVs and trucks. The proposed plan will investigate ways to make travelling on Yarra streets more equitable. That's my favourite Marxist word. It sounds so warm and cosy. It ain't. Kosha, the motion also suggests imposing proportional parking fees based on the size of the vehicle. So if you've got a four-wheel drive, you might pay more for an hour of parking than if you have, a little tiny EV.
Discriminating on the basis of size can't be done in different contexts. It is that, I think that word is a tell. In this case, it's a few things. So one, it is that ideology of climate change and what they think they're doing to that, as we discussed. But specifically for the Yarra City Council, like many city councils, it's kind of broke and has been running a deficit. I think there was a report that came out under the Andrews administration about how unsustainable fiscally it's been running. So I'm sure that's part of this too, that there's another revenue stream that they might be able to get out of this. And it's, again, also a transfer of wealth a little bit, because a lot of those larger vehicles, pickup trucks and the likes, maybe working class or, other types of people who buy them. So you've got the elites that can afford EVs having their benefit transferred on as a burden to people who drive more working class cars.
Well, I know a couple of City of Yarra dwellers who, though very well off, don't even have cars. They just catch Ubers everywhere. And
good point.
You can do that if you live, 5 minutes from the city, but it's not an option for everybody.